Good afternoon, everybody. I am Paula Ludwig with the Atlantic Institute, and this is our Cuisine of Different Cultures class. In a little bit, I'm going to turn this over to Jacqueline, and she's going to do a mango salmon thing, kind of the dish I have behind me here. And the Atlantic Institute is a nonprofit that promotes positive dialogue between different cultures, religions, faiths, getting to know your next door neighbor, and having those positive conversations and understandings. You can check us out. We have a website, Atlantic Institute SC, or as I was mentioning earlier, we have an Atlantic Institute SC YouTube channel that has over 200 videos. I'm pretty sure it's almost have 300 now. And you can see the different programs that we do. I am now going to turn this over to our wonderful instructor for the day, Jacqueline, and she's going to explain what all we're going to do.
Great. Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm so happy to be sharing this really fun class and recipe with you today. I'm Jacqueline Gomes. I am a registered dietitian. I've been a dietitian for about 20 years now, and I do a lot of these cooking videos. I also have a private practice where I see my own clients, and I love teaching all things nutrition. So one of the main reasons why I decided to do this recipe, which is our firecracker salmon with a mango salsa and over rice, a cilantro rice, is that oftentimes we hear that healthy eating doesn't taste good, it's bland or it's boring. And I think this recipe does a really nice job of illustrating that that's not true. So we can definitely create healthy meals that are bursting with flavor and of course have positive nutrition. So that's what we're going to do today. So I basically don't have anything prepped. So I wanted to do everything from soup to nuts with you. So let's get started. All right. And of course, as Paula mentioned, if you have any questions or comments that you'd like to share, feel free to pop those into the chat and she will give those to me and we can chit chat throughout. You certainly don't have to wait until the end to drop your questions. Okay. So we're going to get started with our rice. So anytime we're cooking, we always want to be efficient and prepare what takes the longest first. So we kind of get that out of the way. So of course, rice takes about 15 or 20 minutes mostly to cook. So we want to get that on the stove right away. So I'm just going to grab my pot of water here. Let me just turn up my heat. So I'm using jasmine rice. You can use any rice that you love. You could use brown rice. You could even use quinoa if you prefer, if you're not a rice person. So I've got 1 cup of rice here, and I'm just going to put that into some boiling water with a teaspoon of salt. I'm going to pop it back on the stove, and it's going to hang out there for about 15 or 20 minutes until we're ready for it. Okay. So let me just put that back here. Okay, that's really the only thing. Let me just set a timer because I will forget. That's one of my claims to fame, really, is that I can cook and talk about it, but then once things start rolling, I tend to forget about things, right? Because we're having conversations. So our rice is going to hang out there. Once it's done, then we're going to do the lime cilantro situation, which is really going to take it up a level. All right, so let's prepare our salmon. So I have about a pound or so, probably a little over a pound here. Of course, anytime you're preparing this dish, of course, you can increase the portion based on how many people you're serving. So I have my baking sheet lined with parchment paper. So I'm just gonna put my salmon on here. You don't really have to spray parchment paper. You could, if that's, something that you like to do, but parchment paper is pretty forgiving, so you generally don't have to do that. So I'm gonna go ahead and season my salmon fillets with some kosher salt. If you're salt sensitive for whatever health reason, you can always leave it out because this seasoning that we're about to make has a ton of smoky and spicy flavors. So the smoky and spiciness, of course, is offset or calmed by our mango salsa and our rice, which is why we can really go pretty liberally on our seasoning here. So we are going to be doing paprika. We have some thyme, garlic powder, little cayenne pepper, curry, and some black pepper. So what I like to do is just mix everything in a little bowl, get it all mixed up, and then we can go ahead and season our salmon. You're definitely going to have more than what you need for this particular recipe, and that's a good thing because now you want it to be ready for the next time you want to use it on chicken, or you want to put it on shrimp, or you want to put it on some other dish. It's the kind of seasoning that's sort of interchangeable, and and it has lots of legs. Okay, so let's see what my measurements are. So we've got 1 tablespoon of paprika. I cook with paprika a lot. I grew up using paprika. My mom taught me how to cook, and she's from Spain. So in Spain, paprika is a very, very common ingredient or seasonings, spice, I should say, that's used. So I tend to use it a lot in my cooking. I do love how powerful and pungent it is. For our cayenne pepper, I'm going to be using 1/4 teaspoon. If you like the heat is too much for you, it's totally okay. You could cut it down to 1/8 teaspoon, or even if you want to leave it out altogether, that's totally fine by me. Really, what the cayenne is doing is adding heat or spice, that heat, to this dish. Okay.
Jacqueline, they want to know, do you add salt to enhance the other spices that you use?
I salted the salmon, remember?
Yeah, but
That
they're
was
just asking, do you salt to enhance the other spices?
Oh, got you. So I didn't understand the question. So salt is used to enhance the flavor of whatever you put on it, right? So I prefer personally when I cook to put salt directly onto the protein, because I find that the flavor is more evenly distributed versus if I put it into a spice. I don't have as much control if I add it to a mix versus if I'm actually seasoning the food with the salt myself. So I can play around with it, right? So if I feel like, you know what, I don't want this to be as salty because maybe I'm serving it with, I don't know, something that already has a lot of salt in it and I want to use less salt. I am a big fan of always salting your food according to what your personal preference is, because once it's in the spice, like you can't take it out. It's there. So that is the reason why I like to kind of season my proteins or my food directly rather than mixing in the spice. I'm not sure if that's the exact question, but that's how I'm interpreting it.
So I,
Um,
I just wanted to know because I know that state in a lot of recipes they say to add salt because it does bring out the flavor of the other ingredients. And so that's why I was just wondering if that's what you were doing or that's why you added it.
um, Salt is a mineral that just brings out the flavor in food. It's not going to bring out the flavor in your spice. The spice is the spice. What it really is doing is amplifying the flavor, like in the protein that you're using it on. So even if you're making, I don't know, like a pot of chili. So salt is like very something that is not only personal according to what your palate likes or is sensitized to, but it also depends in the cooking process as to where you add it in. So if let's say you're making a pot of chili or a soup or something where the ingredients are all mixed together, you're going to get a more evenly distributed flavor or enhancement of the food if you add the salt early on versus if you add it in at the end. When you add it in at the end, the salt hasn't had enough time to cook through and sort of like meld all those flavors together. So when you add salt in your recipes matters. Obviously, it matters how much you're adding, right? Once we add too much, that's it. We can't take it back. And it also matters on what your own personal palate likes, right? So there are some individuals who like their food really, really salty. They like to taste that salt. And there are other people who don't. They have a more sensitive palate and they just prefer like a little bit. So it's not that salt is like, I don't know if this is the question, like necessarily changing the it's simply just a flavor enhancer. It just kind of brings the food sort of to life, but not that you have to use it either, right? There are some individuals who have, sorry, what's known as salt sensitive blood pressure. They're every time they eat something with sodium in it, it raises their blood pressure. So for someone like that, what do you tell them? Too bad you can't enjoy your food? Of course not, right? So we have to compromise, maybe cut back on the amount of salt that we're using, but we amplify the flavor with more spices that have other complementary flavors to enhance whatever that dish might be.
Thank you. That was very helpful.
Okay, good. Yeah, no worries. Okay, so we have our paprika or smoked paprika. We have our cayenne in here. Now we're going to go in with 2 teaspoons of garlic powder. Okay. All right, so 2 teaspoons of garlic powder. We have a little bit of curry powder and just a half a teaspoon. All right. I developed this seasoning like so many years ago when I was looking for, not looking, but like I was trying to make these, believe it or not, these ribs, these baby back ribs, and I wanted like a smoky kind of flavor. And that's how I kind of played around with this. And now I use it for different things. So that's how this came to be. All right, a teaspoon of thyme, right? And oops. And also have oregano, which I forgot to grab somehow. We'll just grab it behind me. It's funny, we just know where things are, right? I knew exactly where to go for this. 1 teaspoon of the oregano. There we go. Perfect. All right, so now we're going to give this a spin. We just want to make sure this is really evenly mixed through. I usually, when I make something like this, will put it like in a little jar, like spice jar that no longer has any spice in it. I just rinse it and I just keep it. And that way, if I make something, a homemade spice for whatever reason, I'll just pop it in there and label it. So that's it. So really simple. That's a little too much. So now I'm just gonna sprinkle this on top of my salmon here. And then you have 2 options. You can either drizzle olive oil, you can spray it if you're someone who needs to control their calories or their fat intake or whatever it is. I don't judge, whatever you need to do. I'm just doing a little bit of olive oil, just a drizzle. And that's it. Super simple. So we're going to pop this in the oven. The oven's set at 400. Let me just, then I'll explain what I'm doing. Let me just pop this in. There we go. 400. Siri, set a timer for 15 minutes. So while that's in there, how do we cook fish? So this is a question I get often. Sorry.
Counting down.
So with salmon or any other fish, a good rule of thumb is around 10 minutes per inch of thickness of whatever that fish is at around 400, 425. Fish is probably the easiest protein to prepare. As you saw, is like very little drama. You're basically rinsing it, patting it dry, seasoning it, and putting in the oven. If you want to pan fry it, you certainly can do that, but the oven method is just the easiest and simplest. There's just like nothing much that goes on there, right? So if you have something that is, so a question I often get was, well, like if you buy salmon, for example, you could have like a pretty thick piece of salmon. You could also have like a thinner piece of salmon. How do you judge? So for every inch of thickness, typically it's around 10 minutes is a good guideline, okay? So I put mine in for 15, that should be plenty of time. So let's move on. All right, so our rice is cooking. It actually looks pretty good. I think I'm just gonna turn off the heat and let the steam do the rest of its business. Okay. So you can do that with rice. You don't actually have to boil it for 20 minutes. Like once it reaches 12, 15 minutes, you can turn off the heat and the steam will just continue to cook it. So usually for me, it comes out perfect that way. Okay, so I digress. No, let's move on. All right, so now what we're gonna do is let's prepare our mango salsa, and then we're going to prep the ingredients for our cilantro rice, which is pretty simple. So I think I'm going to do that first. Let me just get that out of the way. So, excuse me, I'm getting so thirsty from talking. So for our cilantro rice, we have the garlic, we have the zest of lime, we have fresh lime, we have cilantro. Okay. So everything kind of just goes into a little bowl and then we're just going to mix everything in when it's done. So it's pretty simple. So for our garlic, just give it a little bit of a smash. That just helps to release the oils from inside the garlic. So you'll just get a lot more flavor out of it that way. Okay. Pop it into a little mixing bowl. Now, of course, always remember to wash your produce, whether you're eating the skin or not. That's completely irrelevant. especially obviously since we're using the zest, we want to make sure that our produce is always washed. So just go ahead and zest your lime right into here. I'm just using the zest of 1 lime. There we go. Try not to get too much of the white. As you get closer to the white, it just gets a little bit more bitter. I don't know where everybody, well, actually, there were a couple people that mentioned where they were from. I can't see everybody's location because I'm not able to see the chat from where I am, but here in New Jersey, it's overcast today, kind of like, kind of gloomy, although we've had some better weather. It's in the 50s, which for the Northeast, that's like wonderful for this time of year. But this dish kind of gives me hope that spring is coming because it's so festive, which is another reason why I think I like preparing this. So let's go ahead and cut our lime. I'm just using a lemon squeezer here. Just helps to avoid the seeds or the pits. Get rid of that. Okay. This makes the rice so bright. It's ever since, I mean, whatever. I don't know how long it's been since I've had cilantro rice, but the first time, I just distinctly remember the first time I had it, I was like, oh my gosh, like there's no other way to eat rice. It's so like bright and just really is just delicious. So that's why I like doing it. Okay, so that's that. You could use cilantro is ideal. There are some individuals who really do not like cilantro because it has like a very peppery flavor. If that's you, that's okay. You could go with a parsley. That's fine, but cilantro really is kind of the right move on this recipe. And just give that a fine chop. And it smells so nice. That's it. All right. This will also give us a nice green rice if you want to make it on St. Patrick's Day. So total sidebar, not St. Patrick's Day flavors, but it'll be green, right? Okay, so that's that. So we're going to let that hang out until our rice is ready, which it's pretty much ready. Now what we're going to do is let's move on to our mango salsa. Now there's lots of ways to skin this cat. With any kind of salsa, you really can add the ingredients that you like best. Typically what we're doing when we're creating a salsa is we're taking either a fruit or a veggie and mixing it with an acid, as well as typically there's onion in there. You could certainly add a bell pepper if you'd like to. If you'd like heat, we're going to be doing a jalapeno. There's no right or wrong. You don't have mango, but you have pineapple. That totally works. And that's the beauty of cooking, is that you can make it your own. So while a recipe is a good guideline, certainly doesn't have to be followed to the penny, right? Other than baking, baking's the only time you really should follow the instructions closely. But anytime, you're cooking, there are some modifications that you can make if you needed to, based on what your personal preferences are, okay? All right, so with the mango, I have a pretty nice one here. I think it's ripe. I let it hang out with my apples over the last couple days because when I bought it, it wasn't quite as ripe as I wanted it to be. But mangoes can be tricky to cut. Basically what you have is like a disc type pit in the middle. So you're just wanting to cut around it. So you just want to get like as close to it as you can. And if you hit it, it's okay. You can just kind of like move your knife around until you get past it. There we go. So you can kind of see that white right there. That's the pit right there. So then we're going to cut the other side. Let me cut it this way. Okay, perfect. Now, what I like to do from here is some people take like a spoon and just like scoop it around similar to an avocado, but we want chunks, so we're going to score it. Let me just use a small knife. So you're just going to score it down here until you get to the pit. Just be careful because, you can bring your knife through. Okay. There we go. And then what you do is you can see that it has these really nice little cubes all ready to go. You can either take a fork and scoop them out, or you could just, take a knife and just run your knife up under them, and you see how they just easily pop out. No big deal here. Okay. All right, perfect. That's good there. And then this one over here. Okay, go. Now our rice is ready. I heard my timer go off, but you can just let it, we can just let it hang until we're ready to address it at the end of, just before we're gonna serve it. There we go, perfect. Oops, I got some skin in there. All right. Let's get rid of that. Okay, cool. Oops. All right, good. So we have our cubed mango. I'm not gonna bother with this right now because it's just gonna take more time. But basically to get rid of this, all you do is just cut around the skin and you can see like the skin comes right off and then you just cut the excess mango and you'll be able to use that, okay? So from here, I wanna add some red onion. So I'm just gonna cut some red onion, not too much, maybe like, depends how much onion you really like. This one, I think I'm just gonna use like a quarter of it. Now red onion, you want it to be really, like really minced. So make sure that you cut it or you chop it as fine as you can. Down to the pit. Okay. This is also gonna take avocado. Okay. Here we go. Put our red onion in here. Avocado I'm gonna do last. I'm gonna do a little bit of jalapeno. Now with the jalapeno, the heat lives in the spice. I'm sorry, the heat lives in the spice. The heat lives in the seeds, sorry. So when you open it and you see all your little seeds here, I usually use gloves when I work with jalapenos because the heat will like easily transfer to under your fingernails. And then next thing you know, your eyes are burning because you went to like scratch your eye. So they're very unforgiving, but if you're very sensitive to heat and you just really want the flavor, get rid of the seeds because that's where the heat lives. So I'm just gonna put my seeds in a little container here to throw out. Oh, I forgot my pepper. And then I'm just gonna give this a little mince. Okay. Oops. Actually, I really like jalapeno in salsa. I just really like the contrast of the sweet and the heat. But, you could always leave it out if you wanted to. So that goes in there. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so always a little pinch of salt, just like a pinch, not too much. And then we have our lime juice, we have our avocado. Let me see if I'm forgetting anything. Mango salsa, nope, that's everybody. Oh, and a little bit of cilantro as well, just like a pinch. Okay, cool. So we're gonna do our lime juice. I like to do this first to make sure that there's like an acid in there for my avocado. This smells so nice. It really gives me all the Caribbean vibes. All the summer vibes for sure. You could also add olive oil to this if you wanted to. I don't feel like it's really necessary, but if you wanted to, you could add some olive oil. Okay, so cutting an avocado, typically you just go down the middle and then you just turn it just like this. Give it a spin. This one's not that great, but you can't win the avocado lottery all the time. Sometimes you just have to take what you get. So you score it so that you get your little cubes. I'm just gonna get rid of this brown spot here in the corner, and then you just scoop it right out. Since this avocado is not that good, I'm just gonna use the rest of it. All right, and that's it. Let's give it a toss. Beautiful. This looks so pretty and delicious. So this is going to go over our salmon. So there you go. Just your mango salsa all set to go. All right. So now let's get our rice And we're gonna actually plate it right away so that you can see what that looks like. Let me just grab it behind us. Perfect. Okay, so now with the rice, you just kind of want to fluff it a little bit. I know the heat is coming out. All right, so here we go. So everybody knows what rice looks like, right? It's just white rice. Okay, so from in here, so right, oh, we forgot to add the cilantro to our salsa. There we go. So right from here, so remember we have our fresh garlic, our lime zest, as well as our lime juice. So that's gonna go right in here. Give that a little bit of a spin. All right. And a little bit of your herbs, cilantro goes in here. Now, I have scallions in the recipe, or some people like to call it white on what is it? What do people? Because I grew up calling them scallions. White onion? No, what's the other
Green
word?
onions.
Green onions, thank you. I always called them scallions my entire life. I never knew them as green onions until like I was an adult. I was like, what? You know? So you could either put your green onion like right into your rice, or you could just use it like as a topper when you serve it. Totally up to you, but I love green onions, scallions. I'm more of like a topper kind of girl. Like after everything's plated, I like it on top. So I think that's what I'm going to do today. All right, so now that your rice is fully seasoned, depends on how you like to eat. You could either put this right in the middle and put your salmon over it. I'm just gonna put it on the side so that we could see how everything comes together. So that's our rice. Okay, maybe a little bit more cilantro so that we could see it. Is this hot? It's not too bad. All right, let's check on our salmon. 32 seconds left to go. I'll cut my scallion in the meantime. I always like to take the top off because I feel like it's dry, right? Like on the tips. All right. All right. I'm gonna cut the whole thing because why not? I'll end up using it at some point. All right, so we'll set that aside. Okay. All right, there we go. There's our timer. Let's grab our fish. Perfect. Oh, looks great. It smells even better. So here's our salmon. There we go. It's got like a nice smoky golden kind of look to it. So I'm just going to put this right onto our dish here. There we go. So we have our salmon. Now the salsa, you do want over the salmon because that's kind of the whole point, is to balance those flavors out. But if you want to put it on the side, you certainly can do that as well. Oops. There we go. Perfect. You could also squeeze more lime on the top if you wanted to. And of course, we have our beautiful scallions that go on top. And there we have it, you guys. There we have our firecracker our firecracker salmon, sorry, with our cilantro lime rice and our mango salsa. Super simple, easy, but so much flavor and so much good nutrition in such a simple meal. This took no time at all. No special skills, I think, are required. But again, you know, the whole impetus for wanting to just make this type of recipe is to illustrate that healthful eating doesn't have to be boring. It can be full of flavor. And of course, we can manipulate the ingredients based on what we love and what works for the best for us. Okay. All right. What questions do you have for today, if any?
I have a question. Say you can't get fresh mango. Is frozen mango okay to use?
Yeah, as long as it doesn't have any added sugar. So anytime you buy frozen fruit, just have a look at the ingredients, make sure it just says mango or pineapple or strawberries or whatever the fruit is. But yeah, just bring it to room temperature and it should be fine to use. Great question.
Awesome. And then my next question is, if you don't like mango, what's a good substitute fruit?
I would say pineapple would probably work the best for this type of recipe.
Okay.
I've seen some salsas made with citrus fruit, like a grapefruit or an orange. You could definitely try that. It's not like it's a different, like you have the membranes from the oranges, so it might get a little bit like messy, but I think it might work. I'm curious if anybody's tried it.
They're hungry now. We'll
Yeah,
all be there soon. No.
yeah, definitely. Good.
Anybody else have any questions? This is awesome.
So I just had a question for the spice mix that you made. I mean that's something that you could probably make ahead and just have like in a container, right? Like in a salt say something like that. So how long would that keep though?
So they say the powers that be tell us that once we open spices, they're good for about a year. And it's not that spices have like a foodborne illness issue. It's just that they start to degrade in flavor
Yeah.
and potency. So I've seen pantries that have had the same spice in there for like 5 years. I mean, I wouldn't do that, but I would say if you had it for up to, 8 months, 9 months, a year, I think you'd probably be okay.
Thanks.
No problem. Anybody else have any questions related to nutrition or anything about the recipe we did today?
Jacqueline, do you have a website or anything you want to plug for this?
I would love to. Yeah. So you can find me at www.jacquelinegomesnutrition.com. Jacqueline, traditional Jackie Kennedy spelling, Jacqueline. So Jacqueline Gomes, Gom like Mary, Es like Sam, and then nutrition.com. So it's pretty simple. It's just my name. On there, you'll find additional recipes as well as how to work with me and different things like that. If you're on social media, you can go to Instagram. I'm at jacquelinegomes.nutrition. And I do have a YouTube channel as well, Jacqueline Gomes Nutrition. I try to make it easy. And on my YouTube channel, as well as my Instagram, it is chock full of healthy, high protein, high fiber, and anti-inflammatory recipes. And I try to share as much as I can about nutrition and wellness. So if you have a question or anything, you could certainly reach me there. I also do have a book. I came out with a book last year, which was pretty exciting. And it's called 52 Weekly Health Habits. It's a tracker, a health tracker. So if you're on a health journey or just need help creating new habits, the tracker is a really fun way to do it. And you can find it on Amazon.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Hi, you're
All
so
So
right, everybody.
I,
If
I
we
do
don't have any,
I do have a question though, sorry.
that's okay.
Um,
That's great.
so if you don't like rice, can you substitute quinoa for this and use the lime and all like that on and the cilantro on that? Is that a good pairing?
Yeah, I think so. So, quinoa has a little bit of like a nuttier flavor.
Yeah.
Rice is very bland, right? So it kind of you can do whatever you like to it. I've not tried it with quinoa, but I don't see. But you know what I did actually? You know what I did make with quinoa yesterday or 2 days ago? I did an Instagram live and I did this tangy shrimp and soy, like Asian style cucumber salad. So
Yeah.
I used quinoa instead of rice. And I did this soy-based dressing for the cucumber, and I put it over the quinoa. And that's not a typical pairing, but it totally worked and it was completely fine. So I would say, yeah, why not? Give it a try, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions?
Mm.
All right, everybody. Thank
Great.
you
Well,
very
thank
much.
you.
I'm going to stop the recording now.